love it. I love where both your guys' heads are at, and that's definitely in alignment where I'm at. The humor on top of that, where one of the spiritualities I'm real into is A Course in Miracles. I don't know if anybody's ever studied that at all, but big, long book, super thick. It's like 2 or 3 Bibles put together. But at the end of it, it says our biggest problem was we forgot not to laugh.
Son of a bitch, is that so right? If you don't mind, I want to introduce you coming in right off of that. Today, we have a special guest who will inspire and motivate us all. Please welcome Joe Legolvan. Did I get that? Legolvan, I asked it earlier.
Yes, sir. That's pretty damn good, yeah.
Real estate investor, business owner, father, mindset, life transformation coach. You're dedicated your life to helping others overcome depression, create goals, achieve personal success. I learned a new term with over 100 doors in his real estate portfolio. I did not know doors was a term for a house sold. That's super interesting.
Yeah. Well, and if you listen to bigger pockets, that's everything's referred to with doors there. So, that's definitely
that's too funny. Maybe it's like the realtor's version of bags. I've got bags. I've got doors.
Yeah, makes sense.
I love it. Well, Joe, welcome to the show. The Tragedy Academy, a show created to bridge societal divides in a judgment-free zone using candor and humor. Why don't you tell us where you're from, a little bit about yourself, and we can go from there.
Born and raised. That aside, basically, my mission here is to help people in the mental health space, in the fitness space. One of the story that I always remember was when I was younger, going through a breakup. And when you're like 16, 17, going through a breakup, there is pretty much nothing more tragic than that. Like it is, at least in my world.
The world is over.
Yeah. It's done, right? Like you don't have a reason to live anymore. And me and my buddy, I remember we were working out together at that time. I remember thinking, I feel better. Like I'm not so depressed when I'm working out. And I remember saying, if I could align working out with mental health, I would I think there's something to this. And of course, 20 years later, we're like, oh yeah, duh. Like those things definitely align. And so that's kind of my focus, my mission, help men, help women, help them overcome things. But using the physical fitness, kind of using the holistic approach, if you will, with that. So
I love that. And I don't think that we focus enough on how physical activity ties to or correlates with our mental health. It's time for an analogy or a metaphor or a description for you, Gary. I talked about it last week. He loves my descriptions because they're always insane. They go out into left field, but I'd like to use visualization as a way to understand how they can impact things.
Yeah.
And if we're a total person and say we're like born as that little baby blanket, and that was us going through life, we're going to go through water, we're going to go through dirt, we're going to go through mud, we're going to go through all these things, and we need to clean ourselves. Well, the shower just doesn't do it all.
Yeah.
It might take off the surface, but that inside, when you wring out a sponge or wring out a towel, what happens? You see that muck that's on the inside of it. So when you get the opportunity to work out, to do yoga, to find all these different ways, you're just twisting your towel. You're just wringing it out. You're getting rid of that negative energy, the mental health issues, all those things. They don't have the same release valve. You can have a problem in the right side of your head that comes out in a run, or you can have a depressive issue that comes out in a yoga twist.
So true.
And you'll know it after you've done it for a while.
So true. So true. And I like the analogy one of my coaches told me is, you can't always think your way into positivity. Sometimes you got to act your way into positivity, right? And that goes right back to that subject is, there's been things I'll be dealing with mentally, personally, where I'm just, just thinking about something over and over and over again with no real conclusion, no real help to it. And then I'll go work out. And then all of a sudden the conclusion comes like that, right? Because we almost have to be in the right state of mind to take on the conclusion that may be trying to get through to us. And if we're not in that state,
it's called not thinking.
Yeah, there you go. Our vibration is not going to be in alignment with that. So we almost have to raise our vibration up to get to conclusion. So they align. So if we're way down here physically and just emotionally, that truth that's trying to come through to help us, it may just shoot right over us until we can bring ourselves up.
Once we come to the realization that we know the truth and that we're only hiding it from ourselves, then we can start to fully understand who we are. because our
Mhm.
mind is nothing but a big ass liar there to block us from every linebacker issue that we have in life, just holding itself up there. It's not doing anything but that, though. It's also taking up a new fucking job where it's blocking you from behind, the side, after work, in the evening, when you get up in the morning. And it's not letting you see what's in front of you, you dumbasses.
Yeah.
No, sorry. No, we're not dumbass. But we don't see. We've got a blocker in front of us that's telling us what's going on from over
A lot
their
of us are
shoulder.
dumbasses.
Yep. Mhm.
It's easy
I
to get in
am.
the rhythm of just being a dumbass, especially when shit's comfortable.
Yeah.
Bingo.
It
Bingo.
takes me to have some
Yep.
fucked up shit to happen to like reset and get back on track way too often where, I'll fall off for 2 years and just, it'll take something for me to be like, oh shit, I got to get back on it, And, a lot of my friends never been on it or never will be. So at least I have a lot of people in this world that push me towards that a lot, and I know what to do at least, but I think a lot of people just don't know, and shit's intimidating.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
around athletes every day, my friends that are nutritionists and everything, so they'll tell me. But if you're just Joe Schmo and you never had a friend that was a trainer, you never been to the gym since, junior high, I think it's hard to go just start.
Yeah, it can be. And, perfection is the enemy of execution, right? Like where we think we need to be perfect in order to do things to better ourselves. Now, and really it's just taking that next step, just kind of pushing if it's, you don't walk today, take a 20-minute walk today, those type of things, because those are all going to accumulate. It's the small little wins that we need over and over to really bring us up. Now, luckily for me, I had a tragedy in my life that really kind of made that super clear. So, about a decade ago, I lost my sister to a suicide. And what was amazing about that is she was my only sister. We were very similar. We had very similar lives, very similar backgrounds.
So sorry.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. But it has been one of the biggest lessons of my life because I saw when she was doing well mentally and what that looked like. And it was her working out. It was her having a purpose. It was her not overdoing everything, not stressing herself out. And it was her not getting caught up in her own mental BS, right? Like questioning her own thoughts, right? Like we sometimes will take our thoughts so seriously, take ourselves so seriously and the things we're thinking. And a lot of times they're cognitively dissonant. The cognitions are not correct, right? And sometimes I think the difference between people who are mentally healthy and mentally unhealthy is how seriously are they taking their own mind. And if you can listen to some negative thoughts sometimes and go, okay, these thoughts are coming in, but they're total BS or total bullshit. And compared to the person who latches onto those and goes, oh my God, it's true. I do suck. My life is terrible. Right? If you're able to kind of laugh those off,
Until they let it go.
Difference. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the snow globe, Gary.
Oh, yeah. You got.
Sorry, I that's one of my analogies is a snow globe.
Yep.
Where those are the things that are around you on the outside of the glass, and if you reach through it, that bubble, and you grab it and pull it in, becomes your reality for the duration until you put it back outside the bubble.
I love that. I absolutely love that, and that is so true. Sometimes we just got to let it settle, right? You got to let those snowflakes fall before we can kind of see things clearly again. But that tragedy has been a big lesson in my life, right? Because I can see where she was unhealthy mentally and I can see when she was healthy mentally. And so those contrasts are extremely clear in my life. And so what I've decided to do with this is to live my life in a way that promotes mental health, right? And exudes mental health. Me being on here right now, right? That promotes my own mental health because I'm speaking about something that is beneficial to me, beneficial to other people. And it clarifies my vision. It helps my thinking. Just like the mindset stuff as well. Whenever you're doing those type of things, it is just going to continue to compound. And, I get people struggle. Some people struggle more with weight, some people than others, right? But some people struggle with mentally than others. They have more of a disposition to that. But at the end of the day, we can really alter that by our activities, by our actions. And I'm not a huge, like, for example, when DJ Twitch died, like, I love how everybody was out there and they're just like, mental health matters, mental health matters. But it's almost like this abstract thing, like we have no idea of anything about, right? And I get there's a lot to learn, but we know specifically there are certain things that help us mentally, right? And those things need to be drilled in more into people's minds, like finding spirituality, finding your workout, finding talking to people like this, opening up ourselves and growing. And these type of activities, I think, should be talked about more investigated, basically, because I think that would really support mental health, as opposed to maybe just a bumper sticker that says, mental health matters or whatever.
My autism license plate or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I know. I'm with you.
Sure.
And action is the word there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm all for
I
those
like
things.
what you're saying there. It's just action.
It is. It really is. And we got to act our way into positive thinking sometimes. So I've seen that in my own life, and I've seen what I can do personally to affect my mental health. And those are the things I promote in my group. And what I try to do is to focus on those things to just improve that and hopefully help more people along the way.
How do you feel about getting this to younger and younger people? In America, we don't learn preventative maintenance on anything. It's like shit's broke and you get sick and you're fucked when you're 40. Now we start fixing everything. We don't like broccoli because we're told it's gross.
Yeah.
Like I think it tastes good now, but when it was presented in a certain type of way when I was younger, I was like, like, what do we do to start getting kids to talk about mental health, being healthier? And I mean, like the NFL, I worked with them like 6 or 7 years ago on a program called Play 60, where they went to kids or schools in Vegas and encouraged kids to play for 60 minutes a day. It's like a whole fucking millions of dollars invested to get kids to play for 60 minutes a day.
Right.
Like that shit's insane to me. I'm 43. I grew up, in the 80s, Cleveland, it was minus 15 and my mom was dragging my ass back inside. We just went. And like, I think people felt a lot better. It might have been a little cold, but now I feel like we got to figure out a way to get younger people to not learn all these bad habits and to start talking about things. And, and it's kind of like, how do we start getting to the, at least teenagers or preteens in a way that, will prevent some of this stuff from happening?
Our question.
And they also have to do it while fighting the dopamine that is being forced down their throat through social media and foods and things of that nature.
Yep.
So it's almost like they have to exercise, but they have to exercise fucking cart full of shit in it and run forward.
Yep.
That's still marketing.
That's a really good point. Very good point. And the way our system and the way the world is set up right now is those quick dopamine hits. It's to, it's to get something that you can get super easily, right? Without having to put any work in. And that's $1 million question. How do we get kids out to play again? How do we get them more in a healthy state? And the way I always look at it is like our ancestors, like even like 100 years ago, what were we doing? We were working physically, right? We were using our bodies physically. What else were we doing? We had a community, because if you didn't have a community, you were dead, right? And fast forward, and we were eating all organic food, right? We were doing all these type of things. Fast forward 100 years, we're eating processed foods. We don't have a community because most people are isolated. People are scared to talk to each other, especially guys, right? They're scared to open up about things. And then we're not working physically. So we've taken away the 3 things that are probably the most important part of being human and feeling normal, quote unquote. We've taken that away, and we wonder why there are so many people struggling, right? And so I think it's a service to our kids. I've got a little kiddo, and that's one thing that for sure I'm going to be focusing on with them is getting outside, having that community, and having fun and exploring that and exploring outside, right? Because I'm like you, I'm 38 now, but back in the day, we would just go outside all day long and just play because we had Super Nintendo, but that
we didn't want to go in.
Yeah, exactly.
I still don't play video games.
It certainly wasn't to the level of the games nowadays, and I have no problem with video games. It's whatever. Like, I think everything in balance, but I think we just came way far away from that balance there. So
I think one of the things that we're missing as a human or as a society is the word purpose. Because without that word, a lot of the things that we're asking people to accomplish to become happy, they're doing without any internal drive. If you've got no flame, you've got no, no ability to fuel a fire.
Yes.
Right. And that fire has to come somewhere within. I believe that that's authenticity. And I think that if we foster that in our younger generation and we say, look, you're perfect the way you are, the way you were born, the way that you came out. Now, find whatever it is that you feel the most passionate about as a child and just go. Go, 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 because it's going to take you to exercise. It's going to take you to success. It's going to take you to friendships. It's going to take you 99% of the time, it's going to take you to a life of service.
Yeah.
Because that's where we find the most fulfillment. And we see kids always want to give to each other. They want to share. They want to do all these things up until they're told that they have to have more than someone else in order to get favor. Up until then, they're all just in the same bowl, enjoying life.
Yeah.
So I think if we tell our kids that they need to be themselves authentically, they're going to find a lot of purpose and they're going to be able to have that base level happiness to work from and really achieve much bigger goals other than just getting out of the chair.
Dude, absolutely, man. And the big why, right? The big purpose, that's everything right there. And that is not discussed enough. And I couldn't agree 100%, more. That is, I totally agree with that. And that's a big part of the whole kind of message that I talk about is finding that purpose. And even not just with younger kids, but with older people as well. Once you find that, you get drive and you get motivation and you get focus. And to have a purpose is pretty much everything. And one of the things I always talk about is like our purposes are unique and yet they're all the same. And to me, our purpose ultimately is to become the best version that we can be, our best unique self that we can be. And like you said, that requires us being physically fit, mentally fit, emotionally fit, because when we do that, we end up exuding our own unique talent, our own unique self, right? Like it's not a comparison thing. And I think with the self-improvement space, a lot of people get into that mindset where they're like, well, I don't want to have six pack, or I don't want to look like this, or I don't want to have, millions of dollars and blah, blah, blah. Well, then don't, right? It's who cares? It's basically what you truly can be in your own heart, what you truly want to be, and then going for that, just like you said there. And people have been kind of lost in that. And I think some of that comes from the comparison that we have in this world. In comparison, a lot of people will look at the idea of like, oh, if I'm looking at somebody way up here, I feel bad about myself. And that's true, right? Because we're comparing ourselves to somebody higher. But it's also true on the other end of the spectrum where sometimes our friends are at such and such level. Like Gary was saying, certain people he's around and stuff. And if you try to rise above that, you're like, maybe I'm kind of getting a little high for my friends. I might want to bring myself down a little bit, in certain ways and stuff. And so comparison will also limit us. And the story I always like to tell is like, what happened if Gandhi said he just wanted to be a little bit better than his friends? What happened if Jesus just said he wanted to build a few more houses than his father or whatever, right? Like, and he's just like, that's my goal in life. And he was comparing himself to these people, which his unique purpose, his unique self, and his unique goal in life was so far beyond everybody around him. Nobody could compare to him. But he just became the best version of himself. And ultimately, why do we become the best version of ourselves? To give that gift to the world. We want to give ourselves to the world, every aspect of ourselves. And when you wake up knowing that if I'm putting in the best food in my body, if I'm giving myself the best mental health possible, physical health, reading, learning, growing, that I'm going to just be a savage and I'm going to be able to give out this amazing version of myself to everybody that I love, even people I don't know yet that I love, right? Because I believe ultimately we're going to meet new people that later on we're going to be like, damn, I had an impact in your life and I didn't realize I love you, but I love you. Like, you're awesome, So we are giving the best version of ourselves out as the purpose. And I think we all have that ability, whatever level we're at, whatever our unique purpose can be, that can definitely guide right through all of those. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
back to like 100 years ago, like you had to be good enough to just survive at a point. You had to be strong enough or smart enough or work hard enough to like figure it out to get fucking meat, milk, and have a
Right.
roof and fire shit, So at some level, you had to be at least X good to not die. So at some
Yeah.
point, like a lot of people's purpose was just survival, and there was the people around that rose to much more. But like now, it's like so easy to not even have to get your own food or water or shelter or like really anything that like you don't have to even lift anything ever if you don't want to, or go anywhere or build anything, or it's at some date in the 1920s or 30s or 40s, like at some point in the last 150 years, it has changed, I think, where survival wasn't really that hard anymore. And then we just started
Right.
getting softer and softer and lazier. And
So we removed, right, those basic needs that have to be met through the technologies that we've created and the hard work to lay a foundation where life isn't a grind to exist. I'm just curious, when did we stop just going outside to play?
Mm.
Like, can't this replace a lot of the bullshit that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Like, we've created a whole fucking plethora of dumb shit that we do as humans that we don't need to exist. Why can't we go out and be kids? Why can't we run out there and
Right.
just fucking
Kids-
play and chase each other
kids
around
don't
and laugh?
know that.
There's your exercise. Go play fucking lightsabers.
Absolutely.
Gary pointed that out to me. We had a guy that used to be that was on the show a while back, Sam Suarez. He's from Ink Masters or one of those. And in his off time, he plays, he does a lot of film work, but he also loves lightsabers. And he's always running around with them and swinging them at shit. And I'm like, that's what we're supposed to do.
I
Like,
love that, man.
You can't be happier than when you're sword fighting your fucking buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That
No,
came out wrong.
That's a different show.
yeah.
We're a different team.
This is not an OnlyFans here. We are.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's all in the eye of the
Yeah, it's
beholder.
open,
I
yeah,
mean,
now
well,
it's in the eye, and now it's in the eye, and we got holding and eyes now, and geez.
that's the rule, though. You never make eye
Yeah.
contact.
Yeah.
I'm like
That's the
5'4".
rule.
I'm
There's
not playing that game.
That's what she said in there for sure.
So we were helping society, and now we're just degrading.
that is so awesome and so true, right? Like we got to play.
Definitely got to play.
We do. To piggyback on that, it's something I always say: if we're taking life too seriously, we're not going to have energy to take life seriously, right? Like if we don't realize metaphysically that everything's okay, that we're connected to each other, we're connected to our creator. Ultimately, at the end of this, we return back to that. If we have that kind of outlook in life, like a metaphysical playing field, everything's all right. And if we're taking life way too seriously, we're not going to have energy to take life seriously. We're not going to be able to enjoy and become the best version of ourselves because we're going to be too damn stressed out. And I think the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, has a wonderful sense of humor. Our life down here is kind of like a big game. So ultimately, if we have that attitude in life, non-seriousness, fun, enjoy, we're going to be able to accomplish way more than if we're taking this whole dream way too seriously. So anyway, I had to piggyback on that idea there.
No, you're right. There's a Chinese philosophy, I think, that says worry is preposterous. I want to say it's like a Taoism or something like that, but it makes perfect sense because worry is not rooted in the now. Worry is rooted in the future, which doesn't exist. It's always now. You're spinning yarns in your head, or your mind is trying to throw that blocker out there in advance, speaking lies over his shoulder. Right? And that's just how we exist day to day. I did want to switch topics a little bit because I have one of the things that you've done with your life I'm super fascinated with, and I think that people could benefit from hearing this. And that's that you were a spiritual counselor in the Denver jail system. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, I did that for about 10 years until COVID hit, which means I would go in there about once or twice a week and meet with inmates and talk to them and just kind of help them through their struggles and kind of walk them through maybe becoming better versions of themselves. And I talked to everybody. I mean, I talked to murderers, I talked to rapists, I talked to the whole gamut, right? And the funny thing is a lot of times people view criminals as being sociopathic in the sense of like, and I'm sure there's some of that there. Like, obviously, there's probably a lot of that there, a lot of selfishness, a lot of not thinking about other people's feelings. But what I had learned from talking years and years to these guys, that basically they hold on to so much guilt that they end up self-sabotaging. That guilt was the start of their self-sabotage. Like, for example, I knew a guy, he was getting out in a few months, and he had, a job lined up. He had his whole life lined up. He ends up going out and getting some Pruno, which is like alcohol that you can get in jail, gets drunk like a week before his probation, gets caught, and then ends up doing another 5 years. And I find out why. Like, what the hell, man? Like, why would you do this to yourself? You've lived, a certain way, and you've done all this work to get out, and now you just completely blew it. And really, I think inside is he just had this negative self view of himself that he didn't feel worthy of anything more, right? And so what my job in there was trying to expose them to their real self, trying to expose them to the higher self, to their true intention behind the ego, behind the mask, if you will. And once we were able to connect with that, then people stopped self-sabotaging and they actually started living a better life, and they started making better decisions. So, and of course, I utilize that as well in my own life. If I'm starting to self-sabotage, it's probably some self-hatred going on, something I haven't forgiven myself for, some kind of guilt I'm holding on in my own heart. And I watch out for that, because we are our own worst enemies and our own best friends. But yeah, that's one lesson from that. So
people get institutionalized. I mean, they drop you off with $90 at the fucking bus stop and tell you good luck, and been in there for 7 years and your family's gone. You don't have a job,
that too.
You're unemployable.
It's people freak the fuck out about that all the time. And at least you got, not to be too cliche, but 3 hots and a fucking cot. And somewhere like Denver or Ohio, where I'm from, it's fucking cold. They drop you off in December at the Greyhound station. Like, shit, you might stab someone to go right back.
Yeah. Dude,
just to go back.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard of people going to get their teeth fixed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a rough spot.
I'm in Florida, so I can see why you're either baking your brains here or you're up there freezing them, one or the other. But we've talked about how there is a direct flight from Ohio to Florida. Like, there's some kind of path that has been forged between those
White Trash
states.
Express.
Man, people don't realize, man, Ohio is Sketchville, man. So I'm a real estate investor as well, but we had a duplex out there in certain spots, right? Ohio's nice spots too, obviously, but we don't really have ghettos like we do in Colorado, like you guys do in Ohio, man. So I was in Indianapolis. We bought this duplex, and I swear on everything, it was right next to a trap house. And the guy's running drugs in and out. I'm watching crackheads come in and out. And he comes out, and I start talking to him. He's actually a really nice guy, whatever. But he was like, it was a total
just feeding his family.
Oh, yeah. And he's telling me, hey, we watch each other's backs in this neighborhood. I'm just so glad you're here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, damn, you guys go hard in Ohio, man. So people don't know.
I mean, it's like in Cleveland, there's, in the metropolitan area is 1.7 million people. There's already over 700 abandoned apartment complexes, 10,000 abandoned homes. Every mall I ever went to as a kid is abandoned. Every place I used to play is gone. Elementary schools are all gone.
This sounds like a place I would have loved as a kid to run around and explore while it's all empty.
So you throw a toilet through the wall, and then 100 rats bail out and fucking attack you. And then you have nightmares for your...
This sounds like a true story.
And I have nightmares to this day, but it's bad. It's like, it's talk about mental health and shit. Imagine everything's gone. You're walking past 10 blocks of abandoned buildings to go to school to, wait outside for an hour and a half. When the metal detectors don't work, you got no books. There's no stalls anymore. There's just 3 toilets up against the wall. There's not even a fucking door on the bathroom anymore.
Prepping you for open peeing in jail.
It's like it's a nightmare in those places. You have to wear your coat the whole day because it's it's rough, and that more people like you going and invest and buying real estate and stuff. Like, I mean, you need it somehow because the industries are all gone, and even in like Chicago, places like that, they're big enough to like have some business there, but the Gary, Indianas, and Toledo's and Youngstowns and Cleveland's, like, there's not much, really left there. So it's going to be a huge shift to,
Yeah.
Nobody's pulling anybody up out of there
Nah.
either. They're not going in there and saying, looking for what we left
No,
behind.
I don't want to get too political. I normally don't. You have,
Yeah.
you have a system that's meant to just give people just enough, and nothing to do much more. So, it's
Until you become undesirable.
you need the vote, and
Yeah.
and it's rough. There's no jobs even if you want one. Really,
Mhm.
we're not taught entrepreneurship of any
Yeah.
sort, except from the drug dealers, honestly. And it's like it's getting pretty rough in like 80% of this country that are the flyover states, but it's about to like really be a problem, I think, because no water.
Places like Mississippi, Arkansas, all that stuff. They're forgotten, man. It's still backwards there. That's what people don't realize. One of the things that sticks out to me is I grew up, poor. So you didn't get the same things that you got in the middle class or the upper class. And one of those things is technology, right? We take for granted that technology comes with money, right? So the race started for everybody else in the country about 20 years ago. The race started, or everybody else got the gun in Mississippi, Arkansas, and all these other places when phones got given out with welfare and the first internet connection they ever had in their life. And now they're being force-fed so much rhetoric and BS on social media because guess what? Picture's worth 1,000 words. Randy out in fucking Mississippi reading through his social media feed for the first fucking time in a generation, in his family is going to believe that Hillary Clinton has octopus legs that nobody knows about because there's a picture of it. And we're just living this life where we're ignoring that.
There's a good chance she does. Probably.
I don't know what she is. I'm just making shit up, but that's what people believe.
This is a fact now. No. Just kidding.
It is, man. I'm making a shirt.
I 100% he's going to spend 4 hours on that.
I will go down the rabbit hole of Hillary Clinton's octopus thing.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an issue with that because people don't have the idea to be able to validate things, right? Like through truth. And what's sad about that too is it just continues to isolate us. That's why I personally I have my political beliefs, blah blah blah, but I try to just keep it kosher because I want everybody to come to me. I want the hardcore right-wing Republican to come to me. I want the hardcore left-wing liberal to come to me. I want everybody open because I feel like at the end of the day, people are struggling with the exact same things, right? Whatever your political belief, and that's a big issue is people think they're so different. Like, oh, I believe this here and they believe this here. So we're just, oil and water. When in reality, we all have the same loves. We all have the same problems. We all have the same self issues, self-confidence issues. And we all are looking for the same purpose. And so to kind of get beyond all that, but like you said, in this world with the internet, and especially the way the algorithms work now, where everything's kind of dialed into what you already believe, it's very easy to become an echo chamber and not be able to reach the other side or not be able to talk to anybody else, right? Like, so it's really a problem.
Yeah, you sit down and have a beer.
I laughed when you said algorithm. Yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say, sit down and have a beer with the guy. Like a couple hours later, you're probably going to see a lot closer to eye than you did before. I think
absolutely.
You might think that's my mortal enemy, but you just get to talking and have a couple beers or whatever, and I think people's minds change really quick.
I like to compare experiences to lenses. And
Mhm.
while we can't wear like somebody else's or see somebody else's exact viewpoint, I think that open conversations are kind of like, you know how when you sit down with your friend and you try on their glasses and you're like, fuck, you're blind. Oh, I can't see.
Yeah.
You know, or you're having like you're doing this thing. That's the same thing as trying to get somebody's viewpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their experiences are their prescription.
Yep.
You can't wear somebody else's fucking prescription lenses unless you're fucking twins or some shit.
Right. Right.
So you're never going to be able to get the same viewpoint.
Mm.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to hold on to that.
That is a really good analogy. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Couldn't agree more. And that's the kind of problem we're having now is, they're just getting the echo chamber of whatever their belief system already is. So it's just getting more and more ingrained. And people are feeling more and more disconnected from each other. Like, I don't know if you guys got big families, but in my family, like there's always like everybody's pissed off because somebody else's political beliefs. I'm like, who gives a shit? Right? Like, we're family. Like, let's get beyond that. But did you hear what Aunt Debbie did? She put out some blah 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 thing, and and I'm like, God, get over it. Like, she's your aunt. Like, what if she dies tomorrow? Are you going to be happy that she, hated Trump or loved Trump or whatever? Like,
reaching over an emoji.
Yeah, exactly. Some meme, fighting over some meme. I'm like, Jesus. Oh, man.
And we get real world fight or flight issues that happen whenever we get into these experiences. People don't understand a meme can fucking affect you just as bad as a saber-toothed tiger did.
Dude, yeah.
Because it's all relative now.
Yeah.
It's all relative. You see something that shocks, hurts, appalls you, or makes you fear for your life, you're getting the same fucking terror that you would if a saber-toothed tiger was looking you up and down.
Right.
And then you've got to go back into reality and put yourself back in check and play the game again with acting like you didn't look a saber-toothed tiger in the face.
Very true. Very true. And again, I think that comes back to if we are dialed in with our purpose, like, and this is something I've noticed when I'm really dialed in, all the other stuff I get tunnel vision, and that stuff easily falls off my back. But when I'm not in my purpose, when I'm not trying to be the best version of myself, I will get caught in these little weird tangents, and I'll be the guy arguing on Facebook and stuff. And it's like, man, that is totally not my purpose here to argue with somebody on Facebook. Like, I have much bigger things to do. And that's always a check for me to know, like, hey, am I off track here? And that's one thing I noticed too, like with my sister, I always reference her because I knew when she was in a bad place. And when she was in a bad place, man, she was arguing with everybody. She was pissed off at everybody. And I see that, and I'm like, okay, that is not where I want to be because I know that's not healthy. I get that we have to stand for our beliefs and we have to have, we have to stand for something, obviously. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of hills that you do not want to die on in this world because for me, I'm trying to climb Everest, right? I have a journey that is only for me. You have a journey that's only for you. And we have to be prepared. We have to be mentally prepared for this journey. We have to be emotionally prepared for this journey. And wasting my emotions and times on some other damn hill that will just get me off my own Everest is a total waste of energy and a total waste of mind bandwidth that could be utilized to live my best life, enjoy my best life, and give my best self out to other people,
You've got to take on things in the now. I mean, you can have all the causes you want in the world, but if you're dreaming about how great they're going to be 20 years from now, and you're not spinning shit in the now, then you're just fucking wasting your time. Yep. You're giving yourself anxiety about what you haven't accomplished when all you have to do is literally stand up, put pen to paper, and do it every day.
So true.
You get up, and if that was your purpose, you wouldn't fucking matter if you were putting pen to paper because you enjoy it. And if you sit there and do it, eventually you've got a fucking scroll a mile long, and everybody's reading it a mile away from you, and they're following your path.
Yep. So
they're going where you've gone because all you did was fucking action.
Yep.
Action, action, action. Everything else is just a fucking myth.
Yep.
It's a fucking game. Yep. It's make-believe. The earth is a fucking insane asylum. Prove me wrong.
You are so right. You are so right. That's one of the teachings I really love is A Course in Miracles. I don't know if anybody's ever studied that at all. And it's not necessarily religious. It's very psychological. The lady who basically channeled the teaching was a psychologist in New York. I think she was at Harvard or something, but she was very high level. And basically, as you're reading the course, it says, there's a part in it that says, you can congratulate yourself because you're no longer fully insane anymore. Which I love, because I'm like,
It's so true.
that's not something I'm going to put on my resume. I'm not 100% insane anymore, but it is true, man. We live a wild.
The right person reading that, though, you know what? I would argue if you felt that you should write it on there because it was funny or in the moment you just wanted it on that sheet, somebody out there was supposed to receive that.
Yep.
You missed the mark. Because I always say that when you're walking through the store, if you feel like giving somebody a high five, that high five was somebody else's depression that needed to be plugged. That's it. You knew you were supposed to be high-fiving that person, but you went, somebody's going to fucking judge me for being a corny white guy giving a high five in Target. When that person that you wanted to high five just had their fucking dad die.
Yeah.
Or their dog die. Or, maybe they're dealing with something at work. But you give them that one little turning point. Or maybe that high five becomes a friendship. You never fucking know.
Yeah, you are so right. I love that, man. And what a cool idea there. And coming out of our comfort zone, right? Coming out of our shell to do something like that. That's one thing I've learned from the whole social media posting is, man, I have some fears about coming out and explaining how I felt and explaining who I am. And sometimes I'll put something out there and I'm like, God, who's going to see this? Are they going to judge me? Or are they going to think I'm weird because I'm talking about anxiety or I'm talking about whatever? And man, the people that have written me and been like, dude, I needed to hear that like today. Like what you said helped me today. Like you don't know what's going on with them, right? Like they could have, who knows? They could have been contemplating something horrible that day. And you came out with something that you thought was corny or you thought people were going to judge you. And at the end of the day, that's just me facing myself, having courage. And that's just as hard as doing that extra rep in the gym, right? All the small things affect the big things. If we're doing the hard thing in the gym, the small things, if we're doing the hard thing on the diet, it's going to affect the big things. And being able to be the best version of ourselves, being able to give that high five in the store, even though we feel uncomfortable, but something inside is telling you to do it. That's what it's all about, right? Because, who cares at the end of the day about six-pack abs? Who cares about being ripped? All that stuff doesn't matter, but it does help you mentally to do the things that is your true purpose. Because if you can overcome that pain in the gym, pain of discomfort, you're going to be able to spread that out into other aspects of your life. So I love that, man. And what a cool thing that you said that, because that's definitely something I'm going to take into play. I'll be high-fiving old ladies at Walmart now. So I appreciate that, brother.
No problem. It's for free. I give these out. They sit in my head in like the corners of, but my wife laughs all the time because for the longest time, I lived my life trying to hide who I was because I was bullied and made fun of for who I was.
Mm-hmm.
Any of my natural inclinations to be out, extroverted or to, make people laugh or be closer to people was always told that I was, out of line or that's not cool or whatever it is. And I think that there's a certain amount of correctness to you have to go through certain things throughout life in order to find your purpose. I wouldn't be able to give anybody anything if I didn't have experiences in my past to give me any kind of lens. Just so the lens to just see that people are wearing lenses. I don't fucking know shit about shit, but I do know that everybody's playing the game together and not everybody knows they're playing the game. And that's not cool. So if we kind of just put a sign up and says, yo, everybody, this is a game, then maybe some people won't get fucking fooled anymore.
Yep.
Dude, so
suckered
true.
in.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, like the idea of life being a game. So I wrote a book called The Storyteller, and it's basically about a young man who finds his purpose in life. And he meets kind of like a guru type who explains, a little bit about what his purpose is.
Refugio.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I appreciate you. Remember that. So he basically, what the old man explains to him at one point is he says, like, Refugio is asking him, he says, what is this life? Like, how do I exist in this world now that I know I'm eternal, now that I know I'm a spiritual being having a temporary human experience? And basically what he says is this life, if you look at it almost like a video game where you're playing the game, things are going on, and we're totally identified with the character. We believe we are this character in the game. But in reality, you're sitting safe and sound back on the couch. Everything's okay, right? Like everything will be okay. When you die, when the game is over, when you die in the game, you're still safe and sound on the couch. What has happened is we've forgotten that we are safe and sound on the couch. We've forgotten that we're eternal. We forgot we're connected to God. And we've become so identified in this player in the game that we get so worked up about the game itself. We think it's reality. But here's the other crux. We can almost take, and I had a very spiritual background where I was really into meditation, like 3 hours a day. I was almost going to be a monk for a while. And I almost took the other route.
Wow.
Where I was so pulled back that I was no longer playing the game anymore. And that's also not it, right? That's also not the place to be. Because why do we play games in the first place? For the fun of them. Why do we join this life in the first place? For the fun of it, for the challenge, for the experience. This is a place where duality, we wanted duality. We wanted to experience you, me, having limitations, having to overcome these limitations, having to overcome these challenges. And to me, that's what the ultimate quote unquote enlightenment is knowing it's a game and playing our best version of ourselves in that game. Not just sitting in a cave and ignoring the game. Oh, it doesn't exist. But also not getting so invested in the player that you're so anxious and depressed when things happen. So it's that kind of balance there, the kind of middle path, as the Buddha said.
I love that you brought this up because I think that you're speaking to a certain group of people, because we are looking backwards and we're trying to say that we want to help those that have had no opportunity to get discernment of some sort, right? Because with discernment comes distance. And I think that a lot of times it's easy to get stuck in the mire when you do come to this conclusion, or you do have a certain amount of self-awareness, comes through mindfulness, meditation, whatever, could be plant medicine, doesn't matter.
Sure.
Whatever gives you that discernment, it can also put you on an island. I like looking at history. We've seen like those CEOs or that CFO or that random person that just fell off the grid, went to Mexico and started selling or renting surfboards, right? Even though they had everything on the other side. And I think that with discernment comes that choice. I can either go sell surfboards or I can go sell discernment. Those are your two choices.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people, fuck it. Maybe they're supposed to go sit back and relax. Maybe they did fucking 10 lifetimes of fucking coal mining. And this time they were supposed to get the fucking, the aha moment and go sit out there and fucking rent surfboards.
Yep.
Or maybe they're supposed to meet somebody out there and give them a chance to rent surfboards. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
It's discernment can be scary though. It can be very scary because you feel like you're speaking a different language. And you are. I think that we're evolutionary beings, and with that also comes spiritual evolution. And I believe that with those, we take on different sets of energy at each toll gate. And at those toll gates, there are languages. You're gifted with a new language at each gate, but it comes at a price, right? You cannot speak the new language to anybody that is not there yet. You can only speak the language to everybody that's with you. You know the language of the people behind you, but they don't know your new language. So you have to translate from then on out. You're on an island from then on out because you don't get to share the happiness you have on the other side.
Right.
But the happiness is actually reaching a hand back and giving them the opportunity to find discernment so they can join you at the party on the other side. But there are languages. Languages are a bitch, and it's energetic languages. It's karmic languages. It's all these things that we don't get, that it's that prescription again. It's prescription lenses. No two people are going to see things the same.
Right. And I love that you find so many analogies and metaphors, because that's really the language of spirituality, right? You have to use analogies. You have to use metaphors to come where people are at, So I love that you do that, because I think that they're like, oh, glasses. I understand glasses. Therefore, I understand has to do with my perception. So using those type of analogies is super beneficial of that. So
my cousin, The least descriptive term he gave me as a superhero name, and it was Captain Describo. And I was like, come on, man. You couldn't like come up with like something descriptive. He's like, that's the point of it.
That is awesome.
It's the least descriptive thing.
It's perfect.
So
That is perfect. Yep.
I want to give you a chance to talk about what it is that you're working on right now, and where everybody can find you, what they can expect by working with you, and kind of go from there.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. And you guys have been great. Like I love your guys' energy. I love where your heads are at. And I think more of this needs to happen. Like I think more open dialogues about spirituality, about who we truly are, about being the best version of ourselves needs to come out because men of all ages, we're struggling. We're struggling to find our purpose. We're struggling to know who we are inside. We're struggling with comparison. We're struggling with loneliness, right? All these different things. And it's podcasts like this that are truly going to be the bridge that I think are going to pull a lot of men out of their own, self and their own like kind of negative thinking patterns to go, wow, there's maybe something different. And so for me personally, you can find me on mentalhealth_fitness_dad. And it's basically a fitness page, but it's also a mindset page. It's also a spiritual page. We go into all of it and I try to look at everything holistically. The program I run is it's basically like a month-to-month program where you get with me, we meet daily, we talk about where your goals are at. We work on your physical fitness goals. We also work on your mindset goals. We work on vision, creating a vision for your future, and work on letting go any limitations in your mind that may be holding you back from that future. And work on your health in all forms and fashions. The first part of my program is about pain. So we actually do things that are kind of painful, but they release dopamine. They actually help you. So at times it could be taking a cold shower. At another time, it could be putting yourself out there and meeting new people. That can be painful, right? Putting yourself out there. So we face that pain head on. Therefore, we can become the best version of ourselves. Because once we face it head on, we realize, man, that thing I've been running from really wasn't that bad. And now I just broke the limitations that I thought I had. And now the things that I truly want to be, the thing that's in my own conscience to be, seems more attainable. Whereas before it seemed so far away. So we really try to break through those limitations to give people a chance to become their own unique purpose, right? To become their own unique self. We want to support that in every way possible, giving them the discipline, giving them the motivation and the vision to do that. And so that's basically what my program is. It's to help people on that path.
That's beautiful, man. Beautiful. Gary, you have any questions you want to wrap up with?
It might be kind of turning into a long question, but since, Fitness Dad is in your moniker and everything, how did you change once you became a dad? Did your mission change?
Love it.
In any way, or did it just energize you more, or how did things change?
No, I love that. It did energize me more because I realized kids and adults as well, we learn from looking at people, right? Like the idea that one of the topics I was talking about yesterday was we, in this world of so much knowledge, like we can look up so many things on the internet. We have endless amounts of knowledge. In this world where knowledge is so accessible, we need more examples. We need more people living their true self. And unapologetically unafraid to, like you were saying, to high five Jay, to high five somebody in the store. We need more people to be that because we learn by seeing those type of people. And if my son looks at me and sees, hey, my dad followed his passion. My dad followed his heart. He lived the purpose that he felt in his own heart was true. And he was unafraid about that. That's going to give him motivation to do the same thing. So I definitely live that as a hopefully to be an example in a positive way for him. So that has definitely energized me. It's energized me in the health, in the mental and emotional state as well, to just be the best version of myself so he can hopefully watch those habits, watch those disciplines and take those on when he is older as well. So great question, Gary.
Awesome. I love that. Be a lighthouse.
Yeah.
I say it all the time, damn near every show. You got to be a lighthouse, give everybody a path. You don't have to draw a whole bunch of lines to get there. Just stand in place, do your thing, and people will fucking follow you.
Yeah.
They'll find where you are and they'll start to erect their own lighthouse.
Exactly.
I can't thank you enough, Joe. I genuinely appreciate you. We need more people
For sure.
like you.
Thank you, brother.
The fact that you spent all that time with the people that we've segregated from society as the undesirables and saw the fact that it's simply a systemic upbringing and different ways that people are held back in some way, shape, or fashion, whether it be, epigenetic or in this current generation or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
There's not many people that will take that step inside of those walls and have those conversations. And I appreciate you for that because, and I know they do as well.
Yeah.
I can't even put it into words. That to me was one of the things that stuck out to me the most. And I appreciate you for doing that because they're humans.
Oh, 100%. And
they're us. They're us with a left turn versus a right.
You're absolutely right. And we always want to know how we heal ourselves. It's through healing others, right? And if we heal the worst
100%.
aspect of our quote unquote worst aspect of ourselves, externally that really we're just projecting out, we heal that. We actually just healed the worst aspect of ourselves. We healed our own shadow. We healed our own, because we all have that, right? I have the ability to completely take a left turn and just go in a very tragic direction as far as a negative direction. We all have that dark side to us. But if you're able to love that and find those people out, and even though externally they look like inmates or they look like murderers or whatever, and I'm able to look at that guy and still see God in that guy, I just saw it in myself and I've just healed myself. So ultimately, that's what it's all about.
It's so cool giving back because there's no downside internally.
Yeah.
Like, it's so narcissistic. Once I figured that out, I was like, dude, if I just keep doing things for people, I feel fucking great.
Oh, it's total selfish.
That's the CTA of the day. Go see Joe and go give something back. Pay it forward some way, shape, or form. Be a little narcissistic. Make yourself feel good by making somebody else feel good.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Be cool and keep learning.
Love you guys. I appreciate you.
Here.
Really appreciate it.